Chapter 1. How many steps does it take to bring an Annabelle doll home? Since the beginning of civilization, dolls have been loved by children and treasured by collectors. They are also used in religious ceremonies as a bridge between good and evil. Siddle Christian first realized that something was wrong with this world when she was 7 years old. Saying she was 7 years old would not be accurate, because counting her age from her previous life, she was probably over 20 years old. But after a car accident, when she opened her eyes, she had turned into a child on the other side of the ocean. The blonde woman looked tired, gently holding her and rocking her gently. But even though she had lived for more than 20 years, this was the first time Siddle had encountered such a situation. Yes, she was a gentle and lovely little girl. I really felt sorry for her, her situation was too pitiful. So after the psychic told me all that, I agreed to let her stay in my dollhouse, to live with me. On the leather sofa placed next to the long horizontal table, a beautifully dressed young girl was talking. Next to her was a square wooden box, only the front was made of glass. Inside one could see a doll smiling, sweetly. "Madam Christian, she is really very quiet." The tanned girl opened her big teary eyes, sincerely pleading, "She won't disturb everyone's lives. I mean, although I can't take her with me, I still want to find her a good place to live." The mirror reflected the cold light. The sickly white doll lay stiffly in the wooden box covered with rose petals. Her cheeks were as red as blood, her red lips almost turned black, and she grinned. Her delicate blue-gray eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of dust. Her long, thick eyelashes curved over her lifelike eyes. Her pupils seemed to be emitting a cold smile. She wore a pure white dress decorated with intricate and delicate floral lace. Her long, golden brown hair was tied into 2 braids with a red ribbon that hung down in front of her chest, a belt with bright red roses tied around her waist. The long silk dress with a flared skirt like a flower, draped with bright red rose petals, looked both beautiful and strange, like a work of art so exquisite that it gave people goosebumps. Siddle looked indifferently at the girl in front of her, earnestly begging her mother to treat this doll well. Her expression looked calm, but in fact, she had a lot to say. She only dared to complain silently. After all, after learning about the existence of the evil spirit, what normal person would not only not leave, but also take the initiative to let their beloved doll be the host, hoping to live in harmony with that evil spirit? Is this reasonable? Today, early in the morning, she was woken up by her mother to wash her face. After cleaning up and dressing properly, she drove more than 10 kilometers to this place. This Miss Pearl Joyce is a rich person. Her father is a famous capitalist. She is going to study abroad in England, so before leaving she wants to bring some things, and Siddle's mother used to have dealings with this rich young lady, so Miss Joyce expressed that she could let the Yukari family stay in this villa before she returns after finishing her studies. As an intermediary, today her mother came here to conveniently bring Siddle along to get to know Miss Joyce. But after meeting and talking for a while, Miss Joyce did something unexpected. She turned around and went into the storage room, holding out a doll in a glass-fronted wooden box. Before leaving, the young lady blinked her long eyelashes, a little shy. "I have a request." According to her, this 1-meter-tall doll was a birthday present for her mother. She had always loved it. But recently, some inexplicable phenomena appeared on the doll from time to time. She felt very confused, so she went to find a famous psychic. The psychic said, it was because in this room appeared a soul. It was a little girl. Her parents had both passed away, but the little girl really liked this doll, so she was still here. The little girl had no ill intentions, she just wanted to have friends. Joyce sympathized with her very much, so she continued to keep the doll. "Although I've only been with her for 3 days, I really can't bear to let her wander around without a home to return to. I can feel it, she needs family, needs someone to be her friend." Miss Joyce sighed and said. And Siddle, who was sitting quietly on the sofa, showed an expression. She didn't understand. But this also terrified her. As a child, Siddle obviously had no right to speak, so she could only watch in horror as her mother smiled and accepted the doll, and even acted as if she would treat it well, that Siddle would definitely be able to get along with this child. Siddle protested in her heart, no. She didn't want to get along with it at all. Obviously her plea in her heart was useless. So, what's this child's name? She heard her mother, Ray Christian, ask. Annabelle, Miss Joyce smiled, she's Annabelle Higgins. She looked at the doll in the wooden box, the girl with long, golden brown hair, blue-gray eyes, wearing a gorgeous white dress, a bright red silk belt rolled into the shape of a rose. Also bright red was the scar that had healed on her face, the blood that seemed to have not yet dried, her thick, dark red lips, curled into a devilish smile, seemingly staring blankly ahead. Half of the exposed teeth were still quite white. This is a clean doll. Siddle thought to herself. At this moment, the Annabelle doll was in the back seat of the car. Siddle sat in the passenger seat, listening to Ray nagging her. Siddle, your performance really disappointed me. The way you treated Miss Joyce today was very impolite. This will make others think that our family lacks education. But, Siddle tried to argue, we probably shouldn't have brought that doll back. I really don't like it. She really couldn't understand what kind of brain circuitry would let such a demonic doll stay in the house, until now she herself had turned into that kind of person. She still had the intention of convincing her mother, Mom, this is a bad omen. There is no such thing as good or bad omen in foreign countries, but the general idea is still the same. Then, she was unintentionally laughed at by Ray. The woman with long blonde hair tilted her head to glance at her, her blue eyes filled with laughter. Honey, I didn't know you believed in such things. Evil spirits don't exist. Moreover, if there were evil spirits, then God would protect us, right? Siddle. No, I don't understand. This is really like the opening scene of a horror movie. Seeing that she couldn't change Ray's decision, Siddle plopped down on the chair in frustration, looking tiredly at the scenery outside the window. Ray glanced over, saw her daughter's uneasy expression, and couldn't help but speak up. It's just a doll. If you don't like it, just leave it in the storage room. Don't forget, today is the day your sister, Esther, comes to our house. Honey, you have to happily welcome her. Siddle sat up in panic. Isn't your sister coming the day after tomorrow? That's how it is, Ray shrugged, but something unexpected happened. Today your father took her to complete the adoption procedures. From now on she will be your sister Esther Christian. You have to treat her well. After all, this is the first time you two have met. The little girl in the orphanage might be a little sensitive. Yes, I will treat her well. Siddle nodded. 3 years ago, she originally had a younger sister, but Ray unexpectedly had a difficult birth, lost the ability to give birth, and the loss of that child also became a knot in this family. In order to overcome the pain, her parents moved her from the coast to New England, but the loss of the child was still a shadow that could not be covered up. Not long ago, her father suggested that they adopt a child at the orphanage. The couple had originally planned to adopt a girl younger than Siddle to replace their unborn baby sister, but unexpectedly, they were attracted to a Russian girl at the orphanage. She was a 9-year-old girl, gentle, quiet, beautiful, kind, and a very obedient girl who made people love her. That's how Dad described it to Siddle. They were afraid that Siddle wouldn't be able to accept another older sister, but in fact, if she could spare her parents from the pain, Siddle would be happy to have another older sister. Don't say 1, even 10 more would be fine. After all, her family wouldn't be unable to support them. Moreover, it was said that this older sister was beautiful but shy. Just imagining that she could stick to a fragrant and soft older sister in the future, Siddle even felt a little excited and looking forward to it. The car stopped in front of a villa. Ray told Siddle to hold Annabelle and get out of the car first, so she could drive into the garage. Siddle was reluctant to hold the wooden box that was almost as tall as her. She turned her head and faced Annabelle in the box, instinctively running faster. At the door, before Siddle could even press the doorbell, she heard the sound of the door opening. Her father Kelson, an elegant middle-aged man, appeared at the door, smiling lovingly at Siddle. Welcome home, my little princess. He bent down to hug Siddle. Siddle was still holding the wooden box that was very big for her. It was inconvenient to move. She could only stand in place, obediently waiting for him to finish hugging. Then, Kelson brought out a little girl from behind. This is your sister, Kelson introduced. She is Esther Christian. You two should live together in harmony. The little girl's eyes were big and bright, like two jet-black pearls falling into clear water. Thick and long eyelashes covered her jet-black pupils that were as clear as water, her nose was straight, her lips were as fresh as flower petals, her skin was as white as milk, her dark brown hair was slightly curled, she was quiet and a little shy, she lowered her head slightly, quietly looking towards Siddle. Perhaps because she was afraid of strangers, her left hand was still tightly holding the corner of Kelson's shirt. "Hello." Siddle was stunned by her beauty for a few seconds, threw the Annabelle doll in her arms to the ground, and happily reached out her hand. "I'm Siddle Christian, 7 years old this year, I'm your little sister." Because she was standing on the steps, the little girl who was 2 heads taller than Siddle did not respond immediately. She looked at her for a few seconds before slowly reaching out and shaking hands with Siddle. "I'm Esther." Her hands were very cold, and her voice was small and soft. For some reason, at this moment, Siddle suddenly became stunned. The excitement of seeing her beautiful older sister was also suppressed, and an extremely strange feeling of discomfort erupted in her heart. "All right, your mother is here." Kelson saw that Ray had parked the car, and smiled as she led the 2 children into the house. "Our new life has just begun." Siddle blinked a few times, suppressing the discomfort in her heart, and obediently walked into the villa. At this moment, Siddle herself did not know that this was just the beginning of her new life.